games. It's ScrubGames. Drop a like, drop a sub, go ahead and subscribe to ScrubGames. Drop a like, drop a sub, go ahead and subscribe to ScrubGames.
How's it going, Scrub Gamers? Welcome back to another video here at ScrubGames, and today we have the next installment of my Understand How to Build series, where I go over all the leaders in a given set to help you understand how to build them to suit you and your playstyle. Now, we've gone over the aggressive villainy leaders. Now we're going to go over the aggression heroic leaders, and we're going to start off with Luke Skywalker. So if you're a fan of Luke Skywalker and want to learn how to build him, then stay tuned. And also don't forget that you can always like, comment, and subscribe, as we're on our way to 2,000 subs, getting really close to getting there. And also, by clicking that notification bell, you can get alerts when my videos do drop, so you can watch them there and then, or at a later time that suits you best. So, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into it and help you understand how to build Luke Skywalker. So, first thing we're going to do is start with the leader. As Star Wars Unlimited is a leader-based game, you can't really play without one, and along with the base is the two main things you need to start off playing the game. And with a leader, it's always best to understand what it does, because some are very generic, so you can play it in almost any way, while some focus on a specific kind of trait, or kind of way or mechanic to play. And for Luke Skywalker, he is the one for the heroic leaders in aggression that showcases off the new deploy. So you can either deploy at 6, so once you hit 6 resources you can deploy. You can either go to the ground arena as a unit, and remember turn 6 resources means it's earliest turn 5. Or he can deploy as an upgrade on a friendly vehicle unit without a pilot on. So he either comes down as a vanilla 5-6 leader in the ground arena, or he comes down as a 4-5 upgrade on a vehicle and then gains an effect. Because mostly all leaders that do this, when they deploy as a upgrade, they are then attached as makes the attached unit a leader unit, and sometimes they have effects. Like for this case, it's if the unit you're equipped to is a fighter, it gains the on-attack effect of dealing 3 damage to a unit. So that pairs very well with his own spaceship we've got in there. I think a Red 5, I think that's his one, but it pairs very well with that. Also, he has the unique ability of being immune to upgrade hate, because he's got the effect as well while attached as an upgrade to a vehicle, that he, as an upgrade, can't be defeated by enemy card abilities. So your opponent can't defeat it by using upgrade hate, which is pretty nice, a nice way, because it's a main way how people will take out these leaders, unless they can't be defeated by effects. So that's basically what he does for his deploy. So he either comes down as a villain in the ground arena or an upgrade on a vehicle with some nice tasty effects. And his effect as well when he's in the leader area is also reminiscent of what he does when equipped, which is dealing damage, because his effect is an action where you need to tap him as the cost, and if you attack with a fighter unit as phase, which is a majority of the space units but not all, then he gets to do 1 damage to a unit. So if you attack with a fighter, after that you can tap him to then go, right, I'm going to do damage to a unit. Very nice, very good. He also comes down to pretty handy traits as well, for if you don't want to go focus on vehicle way, then you can make use of his force trait, which is a very good one to make use of some of those force cards, and in the set, in set 5, you get some more force cards there. And also he's got the rebel trait, making use of those rebel synergies we have from set 1 and from the set 2. Well, set 4, yeah. So that is the leader. So he's really all about the vehicles, jumping on a fighter, mainly focusing on the fighter trait, of which is on most vehicles, and also dealing damage. Also, he's very damage focused like aggression is. Remember, he's in the aggression and Heroism traits, or red-white, so he's got the aggressive kind of route. Also, alongside of him, like with every leader since set 2, he has a showcase, and Luke kind of is plagued by a curse of his arts being not great and very weird, especially with his face. He's got a very weird face in the arts of it, and his showcase for this set isn't any different. We've got the showcase for one for set 1 as well, which is kind of cool, but yeah, it's a bit odd. But yeah, Luke always finds it like his art is a little bit weird on his leaders. But remember that showcase, such as alternative arts, make your leader a bit more shiny and are more hard to get. But as they're just alternative arts, they're essentially, like most art, basically dependent on how you feel. So if you they're always opinion based. So if you like it, fair enough, go ahead, get it, try it out. If you don't like it, fair enough, you don't want it, you don't have to try it. So yeah, asset subjective is the one I was trying to figure out and remember that I normally say. So showcases are just alternative arts, but if you don't like them, you don't have to worry about them. But that is the coverage of the leader. Now we're going to go into some basic information, because I like to appeal to all different levels of play when doing this series. So that way it's not just tailored to veterans, it's also tailored to brand new people who want to just play the game and maybe have joined this video because they like the leader or the character for it. So we're going to give some basic information to help out all those newer players. But if you are a veteran and feel like you don't really need this information, you want to skip ahead to what the benefits are to each aspect, then feel free to check out the description below, which I have timestamps to all the different points in the video, so you can go and skip ahead to the part you want, so you can have decks that are noted with ease of reference. So hopefully if you're a veteran, you're going to move on to where you need to go, and if you're a beginner, stay tuned because we're going to go over some basic information. So the first part of basic information I've got is the bases, because there are two types of bases in the game, and they are essentially the ever essential to the game. Because you're your leader, which is what you're going to use to play the game and basically use your effects and base your deck around. And then bases are how you determine if you win or lose the game. Because the only way to win in this game is to do enough damage to your opponent's base that is on their base. So enough damage equal to the health on their base. So if they have 30 health, you do 30 damage. And likewise, if they do 30 damage to yours and you got 30 health on your base, you're going to lose that way. So that's the only way you can win the game. And there are two types of bases in this game. And there are rare bases with varying levels of health. And accompanying that, they have a effect to make up for the difference in their health from 30 if it's lower or higher. And then the other ones are the common bases, which are all 30 health bases, and we'll go over those after we first check out the rare bases. So as a set 4, we have 12 rare bases. Well, 12 redundant rare bases, because there's the non-aspect one, but there's not really much point in running that. But essentially, we had it skipped in set 2 where we didn't get a rare base, but all the other sets have had rare bases. And they come all 4, 1 in each aspect, and they vary depending. So we got the set 1 ones, their whole kind of theme for that set is epic actions. So they're all 25 health bases, so all the same health. They offer epic action, which just like a deploy, is an action you can take once a game and use that effect. And remember, once it's used, it's gone, just like a deploy. And they vary in the competitive levels of play. Because you've got the green one, Engine Conversion Lab, or ECL for short, is and was the best base for the first 2 sets. Very strong, very powerful, because giving ambush to a unit is very, very strong. Even used today in some decks. But now it's been taken over by Target Town, which is the more popular one now, because of how the game's evolved and developed. It's now more useful for what the game, kind of what the leaders stuff offer and want to do. And then, like I said, set 2 we didn't get any rare bases. Then set 3 we got some rare bases, but that set's theme was more focused towards Twin Suns than the normal competitive format, because in that format of Twin Suns you get 2 leaders, and the focus for those bases in set 3 was regarding boosting your leader's stats was on board, or triggering when they deploy. And since in Twin Suns you get 2 leaders, you can deploy twice, or have 2 leaders on the board, which means you can get better benefits than that. Whereas in normal format, you get 1, so you get 1 use or 1 benefit, like buffing their stats or getting something from deploy. So with the health total on those bases, it's not really worth playing competitively outside of very niche situations or leaders. And that brings us to the last set, the newest set, set 4, and that has brought us 4 new bases, and their effects and their kind of theme are all around deck building size. Well, yeah, your deck size for deck building and your opening hand. So you have the ones that are about deck building, being Data Vault and Thermal Slayer. They make your deck size increased or decreased depending on the health of your base. So for more health, your deck size is increased by 10. For less health, your deck is increased by 5. So Data Vault, for that extra free health, you have 10 more cards in your deck, meaning you have a 50, instead of 50 card base minimum of your deck, you now have 60. And Thermal Slayer, for that less free health, you have 5 less cards in your deck. So rather than a 50 card deck, you have a 45 card deck. So those kind of impacting consistency of your deck, where having a 60 card deck is more cards, less likely to draw the card you're after or find the card you're after. Whereas Thermal Slayer, having 5 less cards in your deck makes you more consistent, having more of a chance to see the cards you want in your deck because you've got less cards in it. So that's the theme of those two, and remember the ever kind of theme is opening hands. So the other 2 Colossus in the Bat Village are all about your opening hand, and the Colossus, for more health, it means your hand is decreased. So for that extra 5 health, you start with 1 less card in hand, so you start with 5 instead of 6. And that might not seem that bad. Start with 5 cards, so you still have 3 options, you only need 1 less card. But it depends on how you feel. If that 1 less card is worth having 5 health base, well, 35 health base, then it could be good. But if you feel like you want that card, you might not want to go for that. And with the map village, you have 3 less health, just like a Thermal Slayer, but you now have you have 2 effects. One of them is, well, technically 3. One of them is you can't take a mulligan. So you don't get a mulligan, so it means you've got only 1 hand to look at. But with that 1 hand, you get the actual 3 more cards, meaning instead of opening with 6, you open with 9 cards, but you don't get a mulligan. So while most bases give you 12 cards over 2 hands, so a hand of 6, mulligan to another hand of 6, this one gives you a hand of 9, but you can't mulligan. Now, it might not seem great because you're losing mulligans, so you're losing access to less cards, but you see more cards in one go, meaning it's more consistent to help you find a great opening play, or if you're a combo deck, find those combo pieces early to make sure you're setting up and starting off well. And you might be thinking, well, I start with 9 cards, that's going to be amazing. But you don't, because it's got an ever effect where when the first action phase starts, you need to put 3 cards from your hand on the bottom of your deck in any order. So you don't get to keep those extra 3 cards, it's just 3 more cards to look at, so where you can make sure your opening hand is how you want. So those are rare bases, and if you feel like none of those rare bases are worth playing, and you don't want to play in those, you can go for the common bases, or as I like to call vanilla bases. Vanilla being a term for cards that have no effects, because they're vanilla, they basically are plain. And with these ones, they all vary in the same health, they also have the same health at 30 health, but the only difference is their name, location, aspect, and art. Now, currently in set 4, there's no benefit to having a certain name or location on your base. So essentially with these ones, you pick the aspect you want, you look for your favorite or preferred art in that aspect, and you play that one. That's essentially it. So with these ones I got on screen, these are the ones I prefer, my favorite ones, because you got the top ones being the new hyperspace foil bases, something we don't have for common ones, that you get from new Twin Suns deck boxes for Game Genic. And the bottom 4 are the ones I prefer out of the new set, so they're my favorite arts of the new set. So those are the bases. Now we're going to get into some more important information, and that's going to be the aspects. Right, so the aspects. So we have 6 aspects in this game, and they each have a kind of different way to play. So you got the 4 color ones, being the ones that are on all leaders' bases and on majority of cards in the game, and you got the other 2 that accompany it, being Villainy and Heroism. Now they're quite different in them, so you got the 4 color ones being the main ones that have certain styles of play, and the 2 other ones are the ones that are quite unique in that, just like the rest, just like the color ones, you can have them on have them on their own on any cards, but also they can be very unique in that they can be attached to one of the other color aspects as well. So like how your leader has both 2 aspects, it has the Villainy or Heroism accompanying one of the other aspects. And also they have certain kinds of level of play. So like for example, you got Villainy, it mainly has the antagonist of the Star Wars universe, and it features very destructive and controlling effects, while Heroism has the protagonist of the Star Wars universe, and has more rebellious and supportive effects. So that's just an example, and then we're going to go over the other aspects and see kind of what style you might want to play when accompanying a base with Luke. So starting off with blue, being Vigilance. This is more a controlling color and more of a aspect, and more of a defensive one, because it offers you a good amount of heal, good amount of defense through like shields and sentinels, and also lots of removal. And this is a perfect one for if you are very patient in your playstyle and like to play a bit controlling, then Vigilance is a perfect one for you to try. Then we have the green one being Command. Now this is the ramp aspect, and in games that have a resource management or resources, they usually have a ramp aspect, or a ramp kind of color or type, so that way they can increase their resources quicker than most. And that is Command, because it offers a lot of ramp in the deck, or in the aspect, and also allows you to play out lots of things quickly as possible, or bigger things out earlier, so that way you can overwhelm your opponent. So if you like overwhelming your opponent and ramping your resources, then Command is perfect for you. And then we have Aggression, and lucky for this, Luke has Aggression on him, so if you like this one, then you can have it just from Luke itself. And this is one that, just like the name suggests, is very aggressive. It wants to throw out damage across like bases and units, and just be very aggressive in its playstyle. So if you like very fury and aggressive playstyles, then Aggression is a perfect one for you, and features a nice unique thing of one of its kind of key things is Upgrade Hate, which is perfect for this new set if you don't like people putting pilots on the stuff. And then we have Cunning. Now this is probably the strongest aspect in the game, and the jack of all trades, because it offers you almost anything. So if you like to be able to play where you got an answer for anything your opponent might throw at you, or have an answer for any play they might make, then this is a perfect aspect for you, because it's basically essentially what it does. It has lots of good effects and covers almost everything. So there's the aspects, and then remember, with a leader you also have a base, like we've just gone over, and that brings you with 3 aspects. You get 1 from your base and 2 from your leader. So that gives us one of these 4 possible combinations, and those are these 4 here. So you always get the Heroism trait thanks to Luke Skywalker. Well, you either get the Heroism trait or Villainy trait, depending on what your leader is, so Heroism for Luke. And then he'll also get Aggression thanks to Luke being a red, and that gives you one of these ones. So if you go a blue base, you get red-blue. Green base gives you red-green. And if you go for red as a base, that gives you access to double red, which gives you double aspect cards. And we'll go over those in a bit to see what they kind of offer, because you're essentially sacrificing a whole other aspect to have access to those few cards. And then with a yellow base, you get access to red-yellow. So we're going to go over what the benefits of each of these aspect combos is. But before we do that, we need to get into the aspect penalty, because that is a very key point when it comes to aspects. Because when it comes to building your deck, you can put absolutely anything you want in your deck. Anything you want, as long as it's not suspended, which currently is just Boba Leader, which you have to worry about that. But when it comes to actually playing the cards when you do build your deck, that's when the aspect penalty comes in. And what it is when you go play a card, if the aspects on a card don't match what you need in your base, you need to then pay an extra 2 resources on top of that card's cost to play it out. So you normally want to play cards with aspect penalties that match, but there might be some cases where you don't. So for an example here, I've got Luke with a green base. This gives us access to the Heroic trait, Aggression trait, and Command trait, or white, red, and green. Now I like to make sure this series gets evolved over time and just improved. So I've got an example to kind of cover the 3 different ways you can learn. Because people either learn by mostly hearing, so basically being told and being told, or learning by listening. Some people learn by seeing, by basically seeing a visual to help them learn, and some people learn by doing, which you can kind of go off and do after kind of hearing and seeing. Try and give it a try yourself by playing the game. So I'm trying to cover this all, so we're going to go over quickly about the aspect penalty. So first one, we've got the top box here. So if a card you want to play has all the aspects on the card match also your leader and or base, you pay no additional cost, just pay for normal cost. So example in the top box. Now the middle box is where we get the 2 additional costs. Now this is where one of the aspects on the card don't match what's on your leader and base, so you have to pay an extra 2 on top. And a good example of this, if you want to play a 2 cost card. Now one of the aspects doesn't match, that's the extra 2 on top, which now the cost costs 4. That's double the cost of the card, which is a little bit more costly. So that's shown in the second box, the middle box there. And also do remember that all aspects only cover one of them. So if you want to play a double green card, with this example here, you can have 1 green covered by your base, but because Luke doesn't also have a green aspect, you then have to pay an extra 2 to cover that second green aspect, because remember, they only cover 1. So do bear that in mind. And then the last box is when we get the heavy costing cards at cost 4 more. So if you want to play a card and has 2 aspects and both of them don't match what's on your leader and or base, you have to pay an additional 4 on top, because remember it's 2 for each one. So that means, once again, a 2 cost card with 2 aspects that don't match, with an extra 4 cost on top, so a 2 cost now costs 6, and that's triple the cost. So that's a huge difference in the cost of a card, because the 2 aspects don't match. So hopefully that's helped you understand about the aspect penalty and would it be more costly. And do remember that even though the aspect penalty makes a card a little bit more costly, sometimes it's worth it. Sometimes there's cards where the effect is just great, but you don't have the aspects covered, or one of the aspects covered, so you might want to play them but pay them for more. And the perfect example of that is the 4 cost double aspect events in set 1. They give you 4 options, and any 2 of them you can choose to use, and in any order. And these are sometimes worth it, because sometimes you don't want to go double aspect to play one of these cards, but you still want to play them outside of in dual aspect decks. So you'll pay an extra 2 costs on top of them, so rather than paying 4, you pay 6. But sometimes it's still worth the cost, so remember, the aspect penalty might make a card a bit more expensive, but the thing with that is the card might be worth paying that extra 2 cost. So that's the aspect penalty. Now we're going to go on to the ratios now and explain about that. So for the last bit of basic information, we'll go over the ratios, because in games, especially TCGs, you can have a certain amount of copies of any given card. And for Star Wars, a limited amount of copies you can have is free. And we're going to quickly explain when you will maybe want 3 copies of a card, 2 copies, or even just a sole copy being 1. So, for 3 copies of card, this is the ratio to help maximize the likelihood the desired card will be in your hand when needed. And examples that are great are ones you want to play on the first turn of the game, or cards you want to see multiple copies of the course of the game. So I've gone for more generic options and kind of examples for this, because it's quite difficult to kind of go for specific examples for certain leaders. And resupply is the best one, because if you're playing green, you're playing ramp. And resupply is the easiest card to play in ramp because it's available to both sides of the force, so you can play it in heroic and, well, heroism and villainy because it's neither got these traits. And you just simply play it, and you can play it as early as turn 2 because it's a free cost. So it's a very easy card to ramp, and if you want to ramp, you want to kind of get this card in your opening hand or by turn 2, so you can play it, ramp up, and start playing things a bit earlier or bigger things quicker. Next we have resupply as the example for the 2 copies of a card, because this is usually the ratio for cards that aren't great to draw early in the game, so Rebels Forward, for example, being a 6 cost, but you still want to go through multiple copies of the cost of the game. So you've got examples like boss cards, or even high costing cards, and Rebels Forward is a perfect example, because in this game you have removal events, and they are more restrictive the lower cost they are, and less restrictive the higher cost they are. And some of them do even say like non-leader cards, so there'd be ones that you can't hit leaders with, so it makes the taking out leaders with offense or with effects quite difficult to do. But Rebels Forward is perfect because you can take out absolutely any unit, even a leader, and it's done that, and the cost of it is 6. So it means if you open it early, you're not going to want to keep hold of it because it's going to limit the amount of options you have in your hand. But if you resource it, you're going to lose access to it. So you might want to have it less copies, so hopefully it doesn't appear in your opening hand, but later in the game when you want to have it to kind of take out your opponent's leader, you have it ready to use. And that brings us to the 1-off copy, being the 1 copy ratio. This is sometimes called, referred to as tech choices, because it's the 1 copy you put in the tech for a specific situation or deck. And perfect example I use for this is Restock, because it's added to decks to help counter hard control decks, because hard control decks, just like they say, they just want to focus on controlling the game. They don't focus on anything else other than making sort of in complete control of the game. And since they're not going to be doing damage to your base, and since damage is the only way you can win the game, they're going to rely on deck out damage, which is whenever you would go to draw a card, if you can't draw a card, you take 3 damage per card you can't draw. So, can't draw 1, that's 3 damage. Can't draw both cards, that's 6 damage. So rely on that by decking you out and making you take damage from that to win the game. But Restock's quite unique in that it allows you to choose 4 cards in a discard pile and put them in the bottom of your deck in a random order. And that, with how the game works, you can put itself as a copy of as one of the cards put on the bottom of your deck, so you can recycle itself and make it so you never deck out. So that means now you're not going to take a deck out damage, and that means hard control decks now have to find a different way to be able to deal damage to you and win the game. So hopefully that's helped you understand when the ratios when you want to have 3, 2, or 1 copies of a card. Now we're going to the bit that you're probably most likely looking forward to, and that's the benefits of each different aspect combo. So first we're going to start with double aspect, because essentially with this double aspect, you're sacrificing a whole other aspect just to have access to these 10 double aspect cards. And since you're losing access to a whole plethora of cards to access these just 10, you might want to think about, is it worth playing? Is it worth using it? Does it mesh well with my leader? And with this focus on Luke, is focus on more on like using fighters to kind of get damage for, and then equipping to a leader, or equipping to a unit as a leader upgrade, so that way you can kind of get the benefit of that. You kind of want more focus on fighters, and currently there is only one vehicle in double aspect, and that is Relentless Fire Spray. Unfortunately, it's not a fighter, it's not going to get a big benefit from Luke, but it could be an upgrade that you can put on Fire Spray, and it can't be knocked off by upgrade hate. So we're going to quickly go over to kind of see what kind of benefits you can get for double aspect, and if it's worth it. So with the first ones we got in set 1, we got Soul Guerrero, Rallying Cry, and Aggression. Only one worth it from this really is Aggression, because it gives you 4 options for 4 cost, and you can use any 2 of those and resolve it how you want. And it's got nice effects from like drawing a card, knocking off upgrades, and even doing damage, which is really, really useful for Aggression. And then Soul Guerrero isn't great. It's not worth the stats for its effect. Its effect is all about doing damage to your opponent, putting attacks on your opponent to take damage if they want to use an event. Now, unless you're playing hard control decks where they focus on events, which isn't that commonplace at the moment, or even most of the time, you're not going to get much benefit. It's going to be taken out easily because it's quite weak. And then you got Rallying Cry as well, which depends on you having a huge board. You need a huge board to kind of get the most benefit out of this. And even then, you need to take an action to use this, then attack with the cards, getting that extra raid 2. But if they're taken out in between you getting the effect off, and then your opponent dealing your board, you're not going to make much use of it, so it's not the greatest to use. And then for set 2, we had Bo-Katan Kreese, Wild Rancor, and Chaos of War. Now, Chaos of War is quite nice because it can help deal damage. It does it depending on the cards at hand, but hits both you and your opponent. And it's an extra way to deal more damage. You can potentially do more than cards like 4 calls of believing, but you can also potentially do less. Bulk increase is a good turn 1 play, solid stats for its cost, and it's a nice effect where, depending on the damage on base, you can potentially draw more cards back, so it's a pretty good turn 1 play. But once again, it's not a vehicle, it's not a fighter to make use of Luke's effect. And while Rancor is not really worth it because it's a high costing card, not too bad on the stats, but it's dealing damage to everything in the ground reach could be yours, and once again, it's nothing that kind of meshes with Luke's effect. And that brings us with the ones from set 3. You have Mr. Bones, Twice the Pride, and Unlimited Power. Limited Power is just not great. It depends on if your opponent's got a wide board, because it can deal up to 10 damage across units, but it has to do up to 4 units, and you can't choose the same one twice. So you can do 4 damage to one, 3 damage to another, and then vice versa, 2 and 1. So you can do it to different units, but then it doesn't do it all in one go, so it's not really worth the 6 mana, well, 6 resources. Then you have Mr. Bones, pretty solid unit, but the only problem is for its full effect to take place, you need to have no cards at hand. You don't really want to have that outside of Kylo, which has got a focus due to its leader, so it's not a great one there, and not a very cool to make use of Luke's effect. But then you got Twice the Pride, probably getting a better one for Luke out of this, because there's an upgrade that can put on any unit, because it's not got the text that says vehicle, like a non-vehicle or like a non-vehicle or a vehicle unit only. So it can be put on any unit, and it's cheap at 2 cost, but it does give a huge boost of 4 power, but it does 2 damage to the unit, so it potentially put it in range to be taken out before it even gets attack off. But you can also just use it to kind of finish off games, like maybe deploy Luke on a unit, then put Twice the Pride on, and then swing for a huge amount of damage to potentially finish the game, or even put it within range of winning the game because of how much damage you put out. So that's not too bad there. And then the only vehicle out of this is Relentless Fire Spray. So we got only one double aspect card in set 4, so it looks like we might be getting less, or maybe it's just because of the space in the set. But this is a decent one because it's a vehicle, so it's something that Luke can just jump on. And it's got a nice effect where on attack, it readies itself, but can you use this once around. But if you're running double red, you don't really have access to ambush, so you can't really use the effect straight away on the turn to like come in ambush and restand. So you got to play it, wait a turn, and then be able to attack with it to get 2 swings in, which means in that time you can potentially attack with it. Your opponent potentially can take it out, so it's kind of vulnerable there. So for double aspect, there's not much you really use out of this. Like, there's a few things, but you're sacrificing a whole other aspect that can provide more things just to have access to this, so it might not be worth it running double red, but that's up for you to try. Now for Luke's own aspects, he provides you with the heroic side of aggression and aggression. And there's quite a few good things in it, like there's loads of stuff that kind of meshes well with Luke. Like you got a lot of good turn 1 plays here, like especially for vehicles that are fighters. So you got Green Squadron A-Wing, Black one, Anakin's Interceptor, and Red Squadron Y-Wing. These are all units you can play as early as turn 1 because they're 2 cost 2. Are fighters, so you can get the benefit when they attack on turn after with Luke, and also can even get bigger stats or even hit quite hard because they all hit for about they can all hit for about 3 damage and kind of vary, and are good ones you can potentially jump Luke on if you wanted to as well. Alongside that, you've also got Red 5 as well, being I'm not sure if it's true, but I think it might be Luke's spaceship from the thing, because it kind of makes sense. It would make sense if that's right, because it's Luke and it's all about damage. You kind of mesh well effect because on attack it can deal 2 damage to a damage unit. 2 damage to a damage unit, and then with Luke, if it's on a 5-turn attacking, you can deal 3 damage. You can damage something and then finish off with that. And you've even got Biggs as a nice up pilot to put on things and gets a extra benefit depending on what type the spaceship is, what the vehicle is. Because if the fighter gets overwhelmed, transport it gets an extra 1 health, and if it's a speeder, then you get grit onto it. So it's pretty nice, pretty nice pilot to put on things. And then you got some pretty nice events like Heroic Sacrifice and 4 calls of believing to push more damage to make sure you're trying to hit damage as hard as possible, as quick as possible to win the game. You also have the non-heroic side aggression, so you got some pretty good ones for the top ones. So you got some good pilots like Determined Recruit. You also got some nice other vehicles like Saving Fagfire being a nice one because it combines being a vehicle with also knocking off upgrades, which is great. You even have Tarkin, which benefits your vehicles because it gives them extra 1 power plus overwhelm, so they're doing piercing damage plus being stronger. And Cham's a nice one where it kind of offers you some ramp if you're behind on resources or play against a green deck, which is then ramping, so you can kind of catch up with them. You also got some nice events, so you got Force Throw if you want to make use of Luke's effects. Remember, even if you equip Luke as a upgrade on a vehicle, doesn't pass along a trace. That's how upgrades work. That hasn't worked that way at all during the game. It's never worked that way now. But if you want to deploy Luke as a ground arena leader instead of an upgrade, You can then make use of his fact that he's got force by using cards like Force Throw, which use the they apply a force trait on a unit to basically go ahead and get the full benefit. You also have Stay on Target, so way to do more damage, potentially get some more draws as well. And you have disruption events like Open Fire to do damage and Pillage to kind of do some hand control as well, which are pretty nice. So those are what Luke has to offer. So that's what Luke offers you. So let's see what happens if you put a different aspect base and what you get from that. So with a Vigilance, remember this is very defensive, a healing kind of focus aspect. So it's all about being a bit more defensive. So you've got some nice vehicles, like you've got Restored Arc for a good turn 1 play, Concord Dawn for nice Sentinel in space, and even Red Squadron Y-Wing to kind of draw more cards by damaging it yourself. And then you got some good pilots to go with it, like Hera and Cassian offer some nice things, like Hera offering some Restore, so you get a bit of healing, and then even Cassian allowing you to draw more cards depending on what you mill for your opponent's deck. You also have like some bigger units as well, like bigger space units like Obi-Wan Saber Sprite, a nice one that kind of help out by dealing with space units and kind of going well with Luke, because he's got an effect where one player attacks, and it can do 1 damage to itself, do 2 damage to a never space unit. So that in tandem with like maybe putting Luke on it means you can then go ahead and do damage to itself to do 2 damage to your unit, and then use Luke as well to do 3 more damage because it's a fighter. But now, if you, once again, just like with how we had Force Throw, if you want to go ahead and make use of Luke's Force traits by deploying him as a ground unit, then you can make use of him by giving him like Lightsaber, or Jedi Lightsaber, and Forces with Me, which is quite handy. You also got some good stuff in the non-heroic side of Vigilance, with some nice spaceships, well, nice vehicles, and pilots. So you got Astromech Pilot here, which is a pilot that you can put on, and it can heal 2 damage from a unit, so that's pretty good if you put it on as a pilot. And you got some nice space units, like you got Padawan Starfire, which gets stronger if you have a Force unit or a Force upgrade. And then you've got things like some forecasts that are pretty nice, like Cloak Starfighter, being a fighter that can make use of Luke's effect, while also giving itself 2 shields to protect itself. And even 7 System Patrol Craft, being a fighter to go with Luke and also being a Sentinel. You also have some good upgrades and events, like Perilous Position being a good example of one. First one, do minus skills, but sort of resting it the unit is equipped to. And even Evidence of Crime, being able to move around, take control of an upgrade that costs 3 or less, and be able to move it around however you like. And then removal events like Takedown and Rebels Fall. So if you feel like you want some good defensive capabilities with Luke, then blue could be a good way to play. Next we have Command, and one thing that Luke also does have is Rebel, because remember he is also a Rebel, and if you want to make good use of the Rebel trait, then Command has a lot of good stuff to go with that. And it's one of the probably better combinations to go with heroic units when they're like with red-green is better in heroic, because it offers you some very good aggressive kind of strategies. You got things like Mon Mothma and Phoenix Squadron being pretty good turn 1 units, because both are playing turn 1, and they provide different things where the Phoenix Squadron offers you a strong unit in space to turn 1, while Mon Mothma gets that consistency by being able to find some rebels and also being a unit in the ground arena that can kind of chip away, plus also find you some things, kind of keeping you healthy with things and trying to find those rebels you solely want. And then you got some good ever cards, like you got Luke Skywalker in his unit form as a good pilot you can put on a unit, and then if that unit is destroyed, then you get to go ahead and play Luke, eject him out, and put him in the ground arena instead, which is cool. And you have now Blue Leader as well, be a nice ambush unit you can play as early as turn 2, and even get benefits switching to arenas, going from being played in space or ground, depending. You also got some other good pilots like Poe and Chewbacca being nice things to offer, because Poe can come down, create a X-Wing token, and then attach itself either to that vehicle or to a different vehicle, or just keep itself on the ground arena, so you got some good options with him there. And Chewbacca offers you some nice things against high control, where it makes it so when it's out, or if it's equipped to a unit, it makes it so that unit can't be bounced back to hand or defeated by enemy card abilities, keeping you something on board to deal with those kind of removal effects that the dark side offer. And then you got your bigger end cards like Home One being a very good vehicle that can put out more things from the discard, and also your reinforcement that can spam out more things on board or bigger things from the top of your deck, being nice plays. Now, in the non-heroic side of Command, you got some pretty nice stuff. So you got some other pilots as well, like Clone Pilot and Jarek Jaeger. So you got some good pilots there. And you got some other vehicles, like you've got Close Combat Squadron and Respy Carrier being nice ones, where Close Combat Squadron gets more powerful the more space units you have. So you can have it out, put Luke on it, and then get more space units. It could be potentially huge. And then Resupply Clara is another ramp, and also you got Reinforcement Walker. So this is a vehicle that could be in the ground arena, and is one that can give you some healing or draw more cards to make use of it. And you got some nice events as well, like you got Sudden Intervention, giving you ambush on the unit. You got to pay the cost though, to remember that. Be able to smuggle this out so you can resource it and use it later, and just give you the ambush efficiency, which is really good. You got Eject, allowing you to take off pilots off units, either your opponents, knock them off the units so they're not as strong, and also draw a card, or knock them off your own if they're about to die, so you can be in the ground arena, like if Luke's about to be taken out on the unit is equipped to, knock it down to the ground arena so it's down, now back out, safe, and also back to healthy, and also you draw a card as well. Then you got Resupply as ramp. So if you like ramping and like being very aggressive, then Luke could be a very good way to play with command. And for the last aspect, we have Cunning. Now this is a good one because it offers some really nice aggro, and it also offers nice control as well. It offers a lot of things. So pretty nice space units, like vehicles as well. Like you got Fireball, and the Millennium Falcons, be able to go ahead and have good space units out. Like Fireball is one that can ambush the Earth from turn 1. And then you also got the Falcons offering some nice things, like you got the legendary one there with the free cost, being able to come out ready active to attack. Just does require you to keep an energy tapped if you want to keep it out. And then you have a Millennium Falcon that can come down and ambush or even smuggle out as well for the same cost. You also have R2 as a good whichever one played. It kind of had some consistency as well. They kind of dig for your deck to find something you might be looking for. And as a good pilots like Dagger Squadron Pilot and Han Solo being very good ones to equip onto your vehicles. And even some good events like Bamboozle and Spark Rebellion being very nice ones to help you with hand control and also kind of knocking things down while also knocking off upgrades on them. And in a non-heroic side of Cunning, you got some pretty nice cards. So you got some nice vehicles, and you got some nice pilots for like Independent Smuggler, plus nice vehicles in like Landspeeder, Outer Rim Headhunter, and GNSS Patrol Fighter, offering some nice benefits like bouncing and resting and stuff like that. And Outer Rim is the one I like to put in for any unit that can go onto, or any leader that can go into a vehicle, because most of them, like Luke, when they deploy into a vehicle, they make that unit a leader unit. And then this unit's effect is on attack. If you control a leader unit, you can exhaust a non-leader unit. So it means if you deploy Luke onto this, it then not only boosts his stats up to make it even stronger and even more viable and might stick around, but now it's counted itself as a leader unit, so it's always going to get its effect when it swings, and also has raid 1, so it's going to swing even for more as well. And also you have some nice events, like Cunning has a lot of good events. Like you've got the ones that can attack and gain a boost to that attack, like breaking in a Spry Strike, offering more power to that attack. You even got bouncing in Waylay, and you even got stealing in things like Commandeer as well. So nice kind of ways to disrupt and just push damage and just basically counter almost anything your opponent controls. If you like a very aggressive, controlling kind of way, then Cunning is a good one to go for. Also, do remember that there are Heroism cards that are just Heroism, because remember it's a unique aspect in that it can be partnered with the other aspects and also on its own card. So you've got some nice Heroism cards, like you got R2, you got Fleet Lieutenant, Millennium Falcon as well, and everyone, there are a lot of them, and then also Sabine's Masterpiece. So these are pretty nice ones you can play in there. All have the Rebel trait as well, some benefits from the Rebel tag, and also offers you some nice aggressive stuff or nice good options. So these are just like few of the heroic cards you can put in. There are some more as well, but these are probably the better ones out of the selection. And then before we end the video, I like to go over my preferred aspects now, because this is something that kept being asked when I first started doing the series for the first 2 sets. And then since set 3, I started putting this in because some people might still be stuck with what they want to build or how they want to build it. So a little bit more advice could only help. So if I were to play Luke, I will play it mainly as green. I'll play attached with green because there's some great space units and great pilots, and it makes for a very aggressive route, probably better synergy with Luke. But then if I didn't want to play command or didn't have to suffer command, I'd probably play it as Cunning, because you get some very aggressive stuff, and I like the way you can kind of play a little like on the board of aggression and control with it, and offers some nice abilities as well, and nice effects, especially with like all the Falcons, and also Han Solo as well for a good pilot. So those are 2 kind of ways I would mainly play for Luke. And that is it for the video. So hopefully that's helped you understand how to build the new Luke Skywalker to suit you and your playstyle, and hopefully allow you to give it a try and play it how you want. So that is it for this one. So we have one more this week. So tomorrow we have the Poe Dameron leader. So we got that as the last leader for aggression. Next week we go start on the last lot with the Cunning leaders from set 4, jump to Lightspeed. So that is it from me today. Thank you for watching. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe. We're still on our way to 2,000 subs, and we're getting closer and closer there. And I'll catch you in the next one. So bye for now.